Hey everybody, it's RC here. You know, this weekend, Epic, the company most famous for their Unreal series, they held sort of an open beta slash stress test for their servers type of thing for their new game Paragon. Now, Paragon is a MOBA, which is a genre that I am not very good at. I played a little bit of Heroes of the Storm, I tried to play a little bit of Dota, but it just never really clicked for me. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if it's a perspective thing. I don't know if it's because it's just way too thick of a genre for me to get. I look at League of Legends and just think like, oh man, I don't know about this. But regardless, I received an email from Epic saying, hey, come check out Paragon. And to be quite honest, I hadn't heard a whole lot about Paragon. I didn't even really know that it was a MOBA. Now, it's different in the idea that it's a third-person perspective MOBA. Now, I guess by some people's definition, maybe that's not an authentic MOBA. I really don't know. However, I actually found myself having fun with this game. Go figure. Now, during the weekend, I played a few matches on Saturday and played a few more on Sunday. Saturday was spent sort of learning the game, learning how it all works, getting the flow of it. And then Sunday, I actually jumped in and played against real people. So Saturday was kind of like, here are some test games against the AI with a few other friends or people I met in the game. And on Sunday, here's the real deal here. And I went from Saturday feeling pretty good, going, okay, I could do this, killing the computer-controlled players, no problem, to Sunday losing all but one game. Now, I would definitely attribute this to my noobishness in the MOBA genre. But regardless, losing or winning, I still had fun with this game. I'm not really sure why that is. I attribute a little bit of it to the third-person perspective. Maybe it's just the look and feel of the game. I'm not quite sure, because the game still has that slow feeling that the MOBAs have. Like, if you're playing Dota or Heroes of the Storm, and it seems like it takes a while for you to gain mana back, or it takes a while for a move to happen, this game still has that feel to it. But I don't know, there's something a little different about it. If I really had to try and put my finger on it, I think it's something as simple as adding a sprint to every character. Again, the game is completely the same as a Heroes of the Storm type of MOBA. However, you have the option of toggling the sprint so that way you can get from one place to another super quickly. And every character has it. So if you're in the left lane and you need to get to the middle or left lane super quick, you can actually hit shift and boom, you are charging up your sprint, you're in sprint mode, and then you can get to another place quickly. So the speed in that aspect, it felt a lot faster, and that's usually the type of multiplayer that I am into. Unfortunately, just like any other MOBA, the games still take a half hour to an hour to finish, and that's a little bit of a downfall for me. However, I gotta say, for this game, where the entry level for it is only $20, that's pretty cheap, and it feels like a quality-made title. So out of the, I would say, 6 or so matches that I played over the weekend, I played between 4 different characters. I played 2 games with Rampage, who is sort of this dreadlock-looking, huge, gorilla-esque tank fighter kind of guy. I played 2 games as Howitzer, who's this cigar-smoking cat who has a cool mech that he jumps into. I played a game with Iggy and Scorch, who's this little orc goblin guy who rides his dinosaur around. And then I played as Subburaj, who basically looks like the Grim Reaper. I would say with my experience playing with the characters, Howitzer definitely felt the most natural for me. He is what is considered a caster. So Howitzer is equipped with this big cannon gun type of thing, that you have a limited range to hit your enemies with. He also has a landmine that you can throw out, which makes all of the enemies on the other side just, I think actually it does friendly fire too, but it makes everybody just, like, explode out into different areas, so you could split up a group of enemies. There's also slow grenade, where you throw the grenades at the enemy's feet and it slows them down a bit. And you have another, I guess, which is considered like his massive attack, which is called Make It Rain, where Howitzer, his mech just jumps high up into the air and shoots down all these missiles down at his enemies, which is a really, really cool looking move when you see it in person. Now, like I said, I played a couple games with the Rampage character too, And the first game that I played with Rampage was against bots, and I really liked him. And Rampage is also one of those characters where he has sort of a dual role. Like, he could either be a fighter or a tank. In the first game that I played with him, he was a fighter. So when I was attacking, I felt like I was doing some really good damage. Now, his normal melee attack is just a punch, but he's got some other great abilities, like he can pounce on his enemies. That makes him jump from afar. You could also use it as a great escape technique, too, if you need to get away. He throws boulders, which were super helpful, because you throw a huge boulder at an enemy, like I guess an enemy player, because you don't really want to use this on the little enemy creeps that come at you. But you throw it at a player and it actually stuns them, which is super helpful because it helps you get hits in. A roar, which is sort of like a temporary buff that makes you way stronger. And then he gets an enrage where he grows huge and he just attacks like crazy at people. It's a really, really cool ability, and another good one to see in person. Now, the second game that I played with Rampage was where I played him as a tank because I wanted to see what it was like. And this is the class in the game that I do not get at all. Playing as a tank, I tried my best to just kind of take enemies and divert their attention to me, but it almost seemed like all of the enemy players already, they're keen to this idea. They already know that I can take the most damage, so they're not going to come after me. They're going to go after the guy that I'm trying to protect. And I just found playing a tank in this game to not be very fun. I felt pretty useless during the game. Now, Iggy and Scorch was another character combo that I actually liked quite a bit. He's another caster, so big surprise, like Howitzer. Gameplay is a little similar, but it is different also. His normal attack, he just throws Molotov cocktails at people and lights them on fire, which is pretty cool. But a couple of his other supporting abilities are, like there's an oil trap that you can put down, and there's also an oil trail that you can run and place oil on the ground. And both of these you can light up with the Molotov cocktail, and they just a huge fire explosion happens, and whoever's in its wake just gets massive damage. He can also throw out a turret, which is super helpful and annoying to the enemy players. Now, the last character I played as was Subburaj, and he sort of looks like the Grim Reaper with a huge hammer. It's a very, very cool-looking character. However, he only has one role, and that is tank. And he is a melee tank, and this game that I played with him, which was my last game, Paragon, that I played this weekend, I was completely lost with this character. I had no idea how to play him. I didn't know what I should be doing. I tried using all the abilities to or all of his abilities to the best of my knowledge, having just learned it, starting to play with him, but it just was not clicking for me at all. He had a normal hammer swing, which, okay, yeah, I get it. That's your normal damage or whatever. He had a rush, a phantom rush, I guess it's called, where he could rush forward and glide through enemies for a short distance. Doesn't really do any damage, though, as far as I knew. But you could also use that as an escape if you need to. That's what I mostly used it for, was to get away. There's a siphon, which I never quite understood how it's supposed to work. I guess it's supposed to stack souls or stack health or something like that, and eventually that turns into some sort of an attack, but it never really clicked for me on how it works. There was another one, let's see, it was called Subjugate, which was a pretty cool ability where you take target at a ground, and that part of the ground basically entangles the enemies and roots and does some massive damage. And then there was the Colossal Blow, which he does, and this was like a huge, like, small triangle blow that he does with his hammer that does quite a bit of damage and knocks enemies to a great distance. But of course, you have to be super close to people to have this work. Now, there was one instance with Subburaj where I got a kill with him with the Colossal Blow. So, I mean, if you get close enough to hit an enemy player with the Colossal Blow, they're gonna be hurting. That's for sure, and it's gonna throw them across the map away from you. But it was my experience, and again, this is probably just because I'm not very good at the game, but it was my experience that most enemies could easily avoid this attack, so I didn't have a very good time playing as Subburaj. Again, I think my character choice is going to be Howitzer if I come back to this. Now, there are a lot of interesting characters to play as in this game. Characters I didn't get a chance to play as, which I'm a little disappointed because I didn't have a lot of time to check them all out. Which I guess is saying something, because it's saying, hey, I want to get back to this and try these other characters out at some point. There were characters like Steel, who is this big blue guy who wears this orange armor. He's he stands out a lot on the battlefield, and he looks very, very cool. I believe he is just another fighter tank type of character, sort of close to Rampage. So if you're into his abilities more than Rampage's, he might be a character that you're more into. But just based on his look alone was one that I wanted to check out. Murdoch was another one that I wanted to check out. He's a role that I didn't get to try, which is called a Ranger. Now, he shoots a gun, and I guess the majority of his attacks are basically range, where you'll have a fighter who is completely melee, or a caster who does a kind of a mix. It's like, well, I guess a caster mostly is ranged as well. But I guess this is a sort of different kind of range, and I'm not sure exactly how that is made apparent in the game, but that's because I didn't really get a chance to try them out. There's also Kalari, which is the only assassin in the game, and it's weird that there's only one character for one type of role in the game, so it would have been interesting to check that one out too. So with this being the first MOBA game that actually clicked for me, I did learn a few things about how the game should be played, whether you're playing by yourself protecting a tower or you're playing with friends protecting a tower. There are things you could do to certainly help them out. So for example, while playing as Rampage, there were instances where I could use the boulder to stun characters for my other more powerful allies to come in and just like wreak havoc while they're stunned. That was very helpful. There was another instance where I played as Howitzer and I throw a slow grenade at a couple hero characters and let some of my other allies come in and just take them out as well when they couldn't do anything. Howitzer also had this great ability, the Make It Rain ability, which I mentioned earlier. If I was running in with an ally and we were going against a tower and maybe it had half its health left or maybe a quarter of its health left, and you could see that an enemy was coming to help protect this tower, Howitzer could use the Make It Rain on the tower and the enemies within the same area, and this would pretty much just take out that tower. And it was a really good feeling to just rush in there, save this big ability for that, and then boom, make a huge difference right there. Now, on top of learning all of your character's abilities, you're also going to have the chance to sort of make your own decks of cards. And within these decks of cards, you're going to have abilities. They call them decks, they call them cards, but really you're kind of just shuffling together a bunch of the best abilities that you have available to you to use in these different matches here. Now, it took a few matches for me to fully understand how these work, but basically you can only equip them when you're back at your base, and you can only equip certain ones when you have the power to do so. And you actually, during the match, will gain points that you can put into these cards to make them more powerful. So, for example, you need to unlock the ability to have, 1, 2, 3, however many cards, and 2 of those cards might be for replenishing health and mana, while another one is a passive card that, say, increases your attack power or increases the amount of overall health that you have. And these are the things that you have to pick and choose at the beginning of the match, or even during the match when you go back to the base if you need to switch it up for different strategies. So there you go. I like the variety of characters. I like the variety of moves and everything in the game. I think it's a cool little game. So, is there anything about it that I'm not feeling? Well, I will say that one of the things I don't like in MOBA games is the idea that there's only one map to play in. One of the most interesting things about playing any first-person shooter, for example, like Quake or Doom or something, is that there are a million maps out there to download and play as, so your surroundings can be different in any situation. But in a MOBA such as this, and this may change as the game goes on, there's only one map to play on, and to me that gets a little bit boring. I like to change it up. I mean, it seems strange to compare a game like this to a game like, say, Rocket League, but Rocket League hasn't even been out a year yet, and there's a ton of different arenas that are different from each other, and different gameplay modes to vary it up to, keep it fresh for the player. For me, playing a MOBA can get a little boring after a while when you're playing on the same map with the same character over and over and over. It just feels like you're spinning your wheels. And this is sort of what I've been going through with loot-based games recently, too. I played World of Warcraft, for instance, for probably a good 3 years solid. And I got to a point where I'm just like, you know, what is the point? Like, I get to the next level cap, and then I get some armor, but, like, to what end? Like, who cares, right? And other games were doing that kind of thing, too. Like, Borderlands, the first one, I was super into. And then the second one came out, and I'm just like, yeah, it's more of the same, whatever. And then earlier this year, which I have a video for, so you should go check it out, but for The Division, I really wasn't feeling The Division because it just felt like another loot-based game. And it's why I didn't really get into Destiny, because it's like, you know, to what end are you doing all this stuff? Like, are you even having fun? To me, it's not really that much fun. I kind of like a game to just be a game. I know I'm calling on to it, you know, a second time here, but you look at Rocket League or even like Splatoon, and the gameplay in that is a lot of fun. There's a lot of different maps. There's a lot of varied ways to play. There's a ton of different weapons to choose from. But to me, it's just like, yeah, I mean, The Division might have that too. It might have different areas to explore different weapons and stuff, but it's just like, to what end? I level up, and then what happens? Like, you know, I don't know. You play a game like Splatoon where there's no real leveling up. Like, there is a level that levels up, but it doesn't really change anything. You just get gold to buy new guns to use in the same arenas that you're playing in. I don't know. For me, I'm not quite sure what I would call it. I'm not sure what the actual issue is, but I relate it to this. And I don't know if it's just, I mean, maybe it's just as simple as saying, like, these games aren't as fun as these other games that I'm playing. Maybe that's all there is to it, but I feel like there's something deeper there. There's something deeper in the design of the game that just isn't penetrating a certain area of my brain, maybe. I'm not quite sure what it is. Now, there is sort of an end game in this. There is something that you're building up toward. With every game that you play, you are earning experience, and you're earning that experience to finally get to something called a master challenge. Now, if you play a character enough and you get enough of these points from playing games, you could do what's called a master challenge, which will grant, I guess, a new skin for your character, a permanent experience boost, and you can unlock other cosmetic rewards as you play. So it's almost like if you were to prestige in Call of Duty. You hit a certain amount, you hit that button, you prestige, and then boom, there you go. So you get a few goodies here and there. But for me, you know, the amount of experience points that you have to get for each of these characters seems like quite a bit. You got to put quite a bit of time into this game to get these skins and stuff. Now, you have 3 different entry levels to actually purchase into Paragon. You have like the $20 pack, I believe it's just called the Founders Pack, which only lets you do, I think, master challenges for 3 characters. Then there's the Challenger Founders Pack for $60, which is the full price of the game, which lets you do for pretty much every currently available character, I guess. However, if you do the Master Founders Pack, which is $100, and according to the website is the best value, you're going to be able to do every character's Master Challenge. So if you're really interested in playing this game for like thousands of hours and unlocking all these skins and doing all the XP boosts and unlocking lots of cosmetic rewards and that kind of thing, this will be the game for you. Unfortunately for me, it felt like a game that I would have put $20 into just to come back to every now and then. But with this game, where it seems like you're going to have to sink a ton of time to get any kind of character progress in, yeah, I don't know. This might end up being a game that I enjoyed during the stress test, but it may not be a game that I get involved with later on just based on this. I like the option of all of these things being open to any player, but it seems like it's really favoring the players who are going to put a lot of time into one game and one map, and I just don't see myself doing that. However, things might be a little different for you. If this sounds like something that you are really going to enjoy, I highly suggest checking it out. If it's a game that you're, you know, if you see it right now on the screen and you're like, man, this looks cool, this looks like something I would sink, you know, thousands of hours into, this might be perfect for you, and I definitely recommend it because it is fun. But there you go, everybody. There's some of my thoughts and processes, I guess, from this past weekend playing a bit of Paragon. Hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you all next time on the Game Grave.